Shalom.
My plan is called a strategy for ending the conflict. It's not the absolutely ideal. I think the absolute ideal was suggested by the Geneva Convention and the Israeli initiative at the time, but overall I'd like to suggest a strategy to navigate out of this problem. Now, before I begin, I think it's important to say why the conflict arose. And it's important to understand that a conflict involves many, many factors, internal and external, with various conflicts of interest that interfere with the representatives of each state to resolve the conflict. Now, it's important to understand that a conflict is also over land, over territory, but also it's a media and a conceptual problem. It's ideological. And so my strategy is such, first of all, to clarify the conflict, to separate between the external parameters and factors that supposedly help but mostly interfere, and focus on the people in the field, people who actually are suffering from the conflict, meaning differentiate between real, actual problems, obstacles, being neighbors, refugees, and conceptual or ideological conflicts. The actual problems should be resolved gradually, according to stages of simplification, meaning each element, each problem should be resolved according to conflict. For example, the question of road checks and roadblocks, this can be resolved. The ideological problems can be resolved by mediated mediation, an Israeli-Palestinian channel, an avenue of communications, by a very small sum of $20 million that can create a communication channel, a bridge. And this can help us talk about all the other problems, such as the problem of Jerusalem. Now, if we use this strategy to talk about the question of Jerusalem, we should first rehabilitate the Palestinian neighborhoods, stop talking in highfalutin terms, to actually do things on the ground, to rehabilitate the refugee camps. Those who agree, rehabilitate. Those who don't, don't. It's often the case, for example, with the illegal Jewish settlements. This is a principle of neighborhoods, of being neighbors. Palestinians, citizens of Israel, are never required to leave their homes, and so Jewish settlers in Palestinian soil should not leave their homes. They're living on ground that they believe is theirs, and it's very difficult to argue the point with them. What we need to do is mediate between the illegal Jewish settlers and the Palestinians to resolve things legally, economically, and through media. This is just a question of people living together, and it's very difficult to tell people to leave their homes. Now, as for borders, 67 borders can be accepted as symbolic borders, and basically to refer to things on the ground, meaning the security fence, the settlement blocks, and the areas around Jerusalem. And we can gradually change municipal services and give them over to Palestinian Authority hands. Israel must maintain the areas around Jerusalem for security reasons. We can also understand the situation. It's a very understandable situation. This is the situation on the ground, and this is what we must consider. As for refugees, the Palestinians use the issue of the refugees as a negotiation in God, and these people have been suffering for decades from neglect. No one really is taking care of them, and the Palestinians themselves use the refugees as a negotiational card. We have to use these people. We have to help these people. We have to start rehabilitation of these areas immediately. And overall, and this is my conclusive remarks, I go back, ideological conflict including the insults and the power play. All of this should be resolved through communication, mediation, through an innovative, advanced format for mediation between people, not politicians, people of influence, community leaders, people who talk together. This is overall the plan. I thank you very much for listening.